Welcome back to another episode. Today we have Onyx Johnson with us. So welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, Tyler. It's great to be here.
Yeah, grateful to have you on. So if you can, just start us off a little bit more about you and what you do.
Sure. So obviously my name is Onyx Johnson. I run a management consulting company. It's a management consulting company focused on really just helping people clarify their vision of what it is that they're up to in life and help them. So we really kind of help them define that. And so in helping them sort of define what that vision is, then we give them the tools and then we stay with them and just focus on them executing that from beginning to end. That's really our claim to fame, managing people's lives through business development and like actualization.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So, first question, because I feel like it is kind of it's a unique thing to help other people with. So, what were you doing before this? And then like, was there something that like kind of led you into this? Like, how did you kind of discover this path?
That's a really interesting question. And I was thinking about that today. What was I doing before this? I honestly don't remember. I have been helping people define what they wanted to do with their lives probably for all my life. Since I was 16, I've been creating projects for people. But in my professional stint, if you would, I've done a number of things. I went to school for psychology. Initially I got accepted to dental school, and I went to school for psychology, and then I started working in the area of fitness, and I did some management courses and self-preservation courses, if you would. I'm a landmark graduate, so I have a number of things that I've done that led me here, but really was kind of got me excited to kind of help people is that I've always been creative and I was always looking for an outlet for that expression for myself. And I realized that other creative people often have a hard time just saying, okay, how do I focus on one thing and get this one thing done really, really well, where it can be the foundation of all my life. And I feel like I help people kind of hone that in and help them do it.
Gotcha. Okay. And actually, let's go back a little bit even further. Like when you were, and I was going to actually say, I will probably have some questions about fitness because you look like you're pretty jacked. I try to work out, but I don't think I'm doing as well as you are. So when you were younger though, let's just say like middle school or something, how did you kind of see your life panning out? Like, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do then? And is it anything similar to this at all or completely different?
No, I actually wanted to be a medical doctor when I was in middle school. And as time went on, I realized that medicine was not going to be my calling. I realized that everything I had been doing up until that point, like I was throwing talent shows, I ran the school newspaper, I was, always putting on events. And I realized that I was always creating something. So as I started thinking about what really grounded me, it wasn't this whole conventional idea of, oh, I have to be a doctor or a lawyer to be successful in life. I realized that in middle school at some point that I needed to find something that really defined me, that was about what made me happiest. And the thing that made me happiest was being creative and creating things. So that's what led me here.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I'd love to hear some stories and you don't have to share their names because I think in some cases maybe you can't, and then in some cases you can, but with what you do to help people and companies and stuff, can you share maybe like 2 stories of like where somebody was before working with you and then what you did to help them and then where they ended up like afterward?
Yeah, absolutely. Really interesting. I have a really unique story of a guy that I have now been working with for about 10 years. And when I met him, over 10 years, I'm sorry, probably 15 years. I used to work with his father, and his father asked me probably about 10 years ago, would I work with his son? And when I met his son was just trying to put on soccer events. So I came aboard to help him kind of organize the soccer event. And then, the father came back to me and said, hey, my son is working on building his own company. He needs some structure. He needs some direction. And would you take him on? And so he gave me a call. And when he gave me a call, the first thing I realized was that this guy really had a lot of talent. But what was going to be most difficult was getting him to focus on what was the one thing that he can do really well that would really help push him forward. And what that was comedy. It was him putting together comedy shows, not even him being a comedian, him just putting together comedy shows and inviting other people to a space where they can find humor to be the thing that healed them. And so what I've done with him over the course of about 10 years is I've gotten him to a place now where not only does he put on these shows, but he's being invited to all the best venues to do shows, and that's a real success story for him, because he went from thinking that he was going to be a soccer player to being somebody that has found that providing other people's laughter is the one thing that's going to heal them most. And for me, that's such a great journey to have been on with him, because today he's calling and he's celebrating all the different places like Soho. He's about to be in Soho. I'm sorry, not Soho. It's called Soho House. I think that's what it's called. Giving shows. He is being invited to, his team is being invited to open for corporations that are having events for their staff. So it's taking somebody that has thought they were going to do one thing and helping them kind of really define who they really want to be, give them some purpose, or help them understand their purpose, and have them create something out of that. So I'm happy to say his name, Hervé Bertrand, and the name of his company is Black Rose Production. And he's doing really, really well. He's somebody to follow. And then I worked with another company where when I met the owner of this company, he was doing community transformation work. And what he wanted to do was be able to create a system that was going to actually help people really center on themselves, really find what it was about themselves that was going to make them their greatest. So it was work that was in line with what I was doing. And while working with him through our journey of over 15 years, one of the things that came about from that is we got to the place of where one day he said to me, hey, Onyx, if this work is so good, why don't we go on the Oprah Winfrey show? Why don't we get on this show? And sure enough, we were able to call Oprah Winfrey's producer through somebody that had done our program. The producer came out and he met with us and he's like, this is exactly what Oprah wants to be speaking about. And he asked us to write it up to take to Oprah. And so long story short, we ended up writing it up. And then at the last minute, the guy says, he's a doctor, he's a psychiatrist. He says, if Oprah Winfrey wants this, I'm going to keep it to myself because I can shop it and do great things with it, And I thought to myself, well, the success of all that is that I got you in front of the show. I got the possibility of you getting in front of the show was there. And hey, if in your mind you think it's good enough for you to shop it yourself, I think that's a success as well. So those are those are two great stories as far as I'm concerned of helping people from where they were to where they wanted to be.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I can that's so interesting. Like my mom's a big Oprah fan, so I've always thought, because I help people with books and stuff, and I think Oprah has like a book club or something like that. So I've always thought, like, if I could get one of my books into her book club, that would make my mom's year. So I'll keep trying. Maybe you can help me out.
Well, listen, we should talk about that. I still have the connection with Oprah Winfrey's producer. He's actually a friend of mine on Facebook. and maybe we can put you in touch with him and see what he can do
Dude,
for you.
let's
Everything
do
is a
it.
possibility, right?
Yeah, I'm in. That's sick. That's awesome. Very cool. That's, and this actually, we should talk about this real quick, is like, I think that in today's world, and this is kind of veering off topic a little, but I think it's important, is like, so many people, maybe they're afraid, or I don't know, they don't desire to make a bunch of connections or something. But I think there's a lot of people that are like closed off to connecting with people like outside of their like inner circle and stuff. And they're just very like head down, staying on their path. To me, I view things so differently, of like, I want to connect with almost like everybody,
Right.
because you never, and it's not just a selfish reason. It's like a three-way win, in my opinion. So it's like, for me and you, right? We're connecting. People are going to listen to this. They're going to get value from it. So the people will get value that listen. Me and you are each going to get value. Like, maybe I get value from that connection. Maybe you get value from me at some point. Maybe you want to do a book or
Right.
something, like, and I could give you advice, or I don't know, but there's just, you never know what's like behind somebody, meaning like the doors of possibility, until
Right.
you connect with them. And to me, it's just so interesting and like adventurous to like just connect with as many people as possible, because you never know what it'll lead to. Right. And
Yeah.
like, I didn't know about the Oprah thing before we got on the pod, and now I'm like, who knows? Maybe I'll be on Oprah's book. Like, I don't know. Right.
For real. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
And it's sad that people don't want to connect like we're connecting, right? But there's
yeah.
many things that stems from, people have been disappointed, people have been hurt, people have been taken advantage of. And it's sad that everybody can't understand that connecting is where life is, connecting is where love is, right? Connecting is where the healing is. So this is a great thing that you're helping people to connect, even through your show. And so I'm happy to be here for that reason alone.
Yeah, man. I think like I don't know if I've ever been through like a deep depression, but whenever I think back of like moments in my life when I wasn't the happiest, let's say, it was moments when I was like isolating myself for long periods of time. And it was like, I didn't realize it while I was in it. But then once I got out of it, I looked back and I was like, oh, I'm like, entrepreneur working at home. So I don't have that like co-worker space like a lot of people do when they work for big companies. So it's like, oh, that's why I haven't been feeling that well, because for the past 2 weeks, I have only looked at my computer and I haven't gone out and like talked to anybody in real life, and then once I do that connection, you just kind of, I don't know what it does, but it does something to make people feel better, so.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Uh,
People remind you that there's life beyond your four walls, right? Life beyond just your laptop. Like I'm like you. I spend a lot of time in front of my laptop, because I'm constantly working with other people to help them achieve what they're achieving. So I'm constantly looking at what other people are doing. But when you get to meet people outside of that, you realize there's a life that stimulates you outside of that, and that is connecting with people is important. Absolutely.
So I guess my next question for you is like about some strategies, and obviously I'm not share whatever you're willing to share, but it's like, when somebody does decide to become a client of yours, what's kind of, and I'm assuming everything's kind of custom, but I also am assuming there is, some sort of like structure. So it's like, say somebody needed help with their vision, like what are some of the things you would first do to help them discover that? Like, is there a particular set of questions or activities that you do to kind of get down to the foundation and get them on their path?
Yeah, absolutely. The first meeting is just a discovery meeting, right? Just like you and I here right now talking, just seeing, what do they envision? What are they trying to do? What are they confused about? Why haven't they got to where they want to be, right? Just kind of looking at where they're at, what their resources are. If there is them being in front of their computer all day where they can't make the connections that they need to be making. It's defining that first. It's kind of understanding where they're at. And then really taking them through this journey that is sort of like, okay, well, you have this vision. you as a resource, are you prepared for that vision? Like, are you healthy? Are you taking care of your health? You know, are you taking care of your biological health and your mental health? And then, you know, how do you frame things? How is it that you're framing the experiences that you want to be having? You know, what is your higher order of thinking, really? How do you structure your thoughts from where you are to where it is that you want to be? So we kind of take them initially through that sort of journey. And it really is a journey, because it's a lot of this meeting with them. We call it vision coaching. And the vision coaching is really kind of just getting in there and having a conversation with the person. Again, just seeing where they're currently at, what is occurring for them. Are they clear on what they want to be doing next? Documenting those things, taking from there, having them do some exercises that really helps them define, do they have a relationship to language? Some people don't have a relationship to their word. They say what they think that is that they want other people to hear, but then when you kind of press them on it, they start shifting to something else that means something completely different. You know, do people have a relationship to language, and does language empower them? And if language empowers them, then we get to hold them to their word. What is it that you're saying? That are you living out what it is that you're saying? And if you're not living out what it is that you're saying, why are you not living out what you're saying, right? Because that's the premise of what we're going to base our relationship on. Like, can you keep your word to yourself? And if you can't keep your word to yourself, why is that? And then we start looking at other areas of their life to kind of see where there might be some inauthenticity there that prevents them from being who they say they want to be before we take them through some more official steps.
Got it. Yeah. So I'm curious what you think about this. I've told, I don't know, maybe like 20 people in my life about this. So now it's going to go on the podcast, which is cool. I've realized, like, in my life, like I'll let myself down sometimes, right? So like if I say I'm going to do something and it's only like to myself, like it's only me that's involved in the scenario, then sometimes I'll let it go and I won't do it. Like I'll give myself a break, if you will.
Right.
But if it is, and I wouldn't even say that's very often, it's like maybe like, I don't know, 20 or 10 to 20% of the time, 80% of the time I do what I say, like I get up and I go on the run or whatever. But when it's somebody else involved, when there's like accountability there, and I know that if I don't do it, it will negatively impact another person, that's where I'm 100%. Like, to me,
Right.
it's like a non-negotiable. So if I say, just a couple scenarios. So if I'm supposed to go on a run tomorrow and my friend is meeting me at the park at 7 a.m. for the run, I'll be there at 6:45, you know, like,
Nice.
and that's like never fail ever. And the reason is because, you know, I don't want that person to like be like delayed for their day, or like I don't want to mess up anything of them. So it's about
Right.
I guess them. So, and then like secondarily, if it's like a project, right? Like if I'm writing a book, I'll let it get delayed. But say I was like co-authoring a book with somebody else, I would never fall behind because I don't want to let the other person down. So do you think, like, what do you think about that? I guess overall, like, do you think that, have you noticed that being true for other people, or like, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's really interesting to hear how you kind of keep your word to other people, but you don't keep your word to yourself, right?
Yeah.
How empowering would it be if you thought to yourself, I can empower myself by keeping my word to myself. Like I can show up for myself, like I show up for somebody else, right? Because then your commitment would take on a whole different other character just for you. And then you would start to raise the bar, because you would go from writing one book for yourself to writing 2 books, because you would say, listen, I know that I'm a man of my word to myself. You know, you are the most important person there is, right? And I am the most important person there is. And whoever you're co-authoring for, whoever you're meeting for the run, they are the most important person there is. But and I say that to say this, it is important that you take yourself seriously, and that when taking yourself seriously, you understand that what you're saying to yourself is what's giving you the power to live your life the way you want to live your life, to create the lifestyle that you want to create. And if you're not using the language that you're saying to yourself to live your life, if you don't have a relationship to that, then you're sort of being inauthentic, right? Because you're showing up for somebody else. And my grandmother used to call it like being like the Joneses. Like, you show up and you're looking good for the Joneses, but when you're home, you're not looking good for yourself, right? You gotta look good for yourself, so you feel good for yourself, because you're making that other person feel good, because they're like, Tyler's showing up. That's the dude. That guy's not gonna let me down. But your consciousness, right? Your consciousness is saying to you, I'm a fraud because I'm dropping the ball and I'm allowing myself to drop the ball. And listen, I'm going to say this. It's okay to drop the ball. The thing is to recommit and inspire for greatness. It's to inspire yourself for excellence, because then you could say the next time, listen, it was only 80% of the time. Now it's 85. Now it's 90. Now it's 95. Now it's 100. I show up for myself every single time. So what I think about that is, if I didn't already say it, is that you have to train yourself to show up for yourself, because then you will show up for yourself being a very, very different man, and you will feel different about yourself. People will see you differently. They'll say, oh, Tyler's always showing up for me, but then they'll notice the things that you're doing for yourself that are even more empowering and impactful, and a great example for them to live their life through next.
Yeah, I think like maybe if I started to view myself as somebody else or something, but I think that like I appreciate everything you said. What I was getting at with that is that I think like the work that you do is super important, not only for what it is, but for the accountability aspect, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's like, once I realized this about myself, and I shouldn't necessarily say that's who I am, because you can always change who you are. And like, I could make that 100% for sure, or at least let's say 99%, and maybe 100%. Right. But what I'm getting at is like, I think if you do start to discover certain things about yourself, and again, you can always change and mold yourself. But once I realized that, I was like, okay, well, if I want to accomplish things at a higher level, I need to like have other people there that are like involved, because then it puts me in that place of 100% automatically. Right. So it's kind of like, I almost would view it as like a hack almost, it's almost like, okay, if I try to do this all on my own, I'll get a B minus, right? 80% B minus. But if I include other people in all my goals, and if they are impacted by me doing well or not doing well, then I move to an A plus. So it's just kind of like a way that I've kind of hacked myself to succeed further by always having others be kind of like impacted by what I'm doing. Right. And then it ends up helping them too, right? Because
Absolutely.
it's kind of interesting.
Now, I guess I want to add to that. I guess the difference in the work that we do at Metatron Concepts is we don't want somebody to have to rely on us to achieve success, right? It's always about teaching somebody not a fear-based system, not really an accountability system, but the internal reward system. Like, what's in it for me to do it for me? That is what you want to teach people. You want to teach people that in doing what I'm doing, I'm happy, I'm excited. There is no third party that I need to think about. There's a reward in it for me showing up for myself that surpasses anybody else believing or holding me accountable. And that's what I'll give you a better scenario, a trainer. So I used to do fitness training, and I used to always tell people that if you have to have a trainer for the rest of your life, you've defeated the purpose in having a trainer. Having a trainer is somebody that is supposed to teach you how to do the moves right. They're supposed to teach you form. They're supposed to teach you the correct exercise. But at the end of the day, you want to walk away from that trainer having learned how to train yourself so that you can be the best for yourself each and every time you exercise. So that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you know that, oh, I didn't need a trainer to look like what I look like. I look like what I look like because I'm self-motivated to do that. That's the difference in what we like people to believe. Now, great, come and work with us because we want to impact your life. But if I can have you walking away feeling that there's an internal reward system that you're constantly able to put in place for yourself, then we've been even more impactful. And that is what we want you to pay forward.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes complete sense. So that kind of leads me, because I didn't want to not ask this question, because I mean, you were a fitness trainer and stuff. What do you have any recommendations on the health, exercise, fitness stuff, like just the kind of like macro level, or like what's your, like, do you have like a protocol, something like that? Yours.
My friends, if I answer these questions and my friends watch your podcast, they're gonna laugh because
Okay.
I get shit handed to me because I eat what I want to eat. I have, there's no specific diet, and I'm sorry to all the fitness people out there. There's no diet that I particularly follow. I believe there should be a healthy amount of everything that you do in your life. I think the reason for exercising, at least for me, is that I always wanted to be in the best shape of my life so I can eat what I want to eat, so that I can do what I want to do, so that I can live my best life. So as their recommendation, I say, listen, work hard at everything you do and play hard as much as you can. What do I eat? Now, I get shit handed to me for eating junk food, but I love salad. I have a healthy amount of carbs, a healthy amount of protein. But then I also do a seriously fierce exercise when I'm in the gym. So I would just say have a good balance in everything, especially in your exercise.
Gotcha. It's funny. I actually have multiple friends that's what they say they work out for. So they say, the only reason I work out is so I can eat whatever I want to eat. And I actually respect that. It makes complete sense to me. I want to eat whatever I want to eat too. So yeah, I mean, I think what I want to do from here is I want to kind of leave the floor to you. Like, I feel like we kind of, as far as I view it from a podcast standpoint, I think we covered kind of the tip of the iceberg. So my hope is that the listeners have gotten some value and that they'll decide to look more into what you and the company does and stuff. So I want to leave the floor to you now and say, is there anything we didn't cover that you'd like to share? And then after that, definitely like let people know Instagram, website, and like where can people stay in contact?
Absolutely. And thank you for that. I want to say this. What I hope your listeners get out of this, and what I want them to get, and why I would want them to look us up and work with us, is that we are really a company that helps people drive success. We help people achieve what it is that they set out to achieve, and we help them define it. I did watch one of your podcasts where you spoke about Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week, right? Yeah. And one of the things that I do believe is that that's the premise by which we kind of run everything, is that everything that we do. We help you define that goal. We help you with the automations. He speaks about automations in his, right? Now, since he's written that book and where we are now, automations has taken on a completely different life. We have those new automations to help people with. We have the project management, we have the leadership development, we have the process modeling, we have the marketing suites, we have the search engine optimization, we have the digital marketing access, the brand development. We have a suite of services that helps you to achieve what it is that you're out to achieve. So why should you work with us? Because we're going to be a great partner to help you get your business started and help you to drive it successfully. Our website is metatronconcepts.com. And please come check us out, send us a note, ask us any questions you'd like. Mention Tyler's name, we'll give you a great discount.
Woo! All right. Thank you, man. Very much appreciated.
No worries. Thank you, Tyler.